Instead, it will be Texas, Stanford, Notre Dame, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Oklahoma, or Texas A&M crowned champion. The field is wide open as you take a look at the brackets. Only 2 of the teams got here cleanly. A&M and Ole Miss, 6 of the 8 had to win a portion of the postseason on the road in order to get to Omaha. We are very excited about this. We have John Bollman actually here in studio with us from Sportsline because of this whole pandemic thing. Found out you live just down the road, so welcome to studios. Robbie Weinstein from 24/7 Sports. This is double elimination, and as I mentioned, guys, the field is wide open, in my opinion, heading into this. Let's get picks for the first set of games. They're starting 1 Eastern on Friday. Oklahoma versus Texas A&M. Oklahoma, the best on-base percentage of the 8 teams here. It's been a while, John, since they've been to this spot since 2010. A&M, of course, one of the 2 teams that got here without a loss. A&M minus 125, OU minus 105. The total is 13 and a hook. I'm out of breath. I'll let you take over. Let's get your pick.
Yeah, I like Oklahoma here, minus 105 versus Texas A&M. I'll give you 3 names here: Trevin Michael, Cade Horton, and Jake Bennett. 3 pitchers who've been absolutely dominant for Oklahoma. They have the highest on-base percentage left with teams making the tournament. And Texas A&M, they really they didn't have one player make first-team All-SEC. They've just been constantly a good team, quietly winning. I think they are the beneficiaries of an easy regionals draw in home games, so I like Oklahoma minus 105 here.
This is a tough one to pick for sure because both these teams have really been on fire since early April. I believe none have lost a series since then. I think this is the one game that John and I disagree on in terms of the opening games, in that Texas A&M, in my opinion, coming out of the best conference in college baseball. I just love how they've been playing. Austin Boast, Dylan Rock, Jack Moss. They've got a lot of sluggers on that team, and they don't necessarily have to rely just on the home run ball either. Charles Schwab Field in Omaha is known for playing kind of tough in terms of hitting home runs. And I kind of like Nathan Detmer also as the starter for Texas A&M in this game. So I lean with the Aggies, but this is going to be a really fun one with lots of runs scored, I think.
And I do want to correct myself, that game getting underway at 2 Eastern on Friday. I was in the wrong time zone there in my head. We're on the East Coast. All right, that evening you get Notre Dame versus Texas. Texas, they have a guy by the name of Ivan Melendez. His nickname, the Hispanic Titanic. He is very well known for that. Leads the country with home runs with 32. Became the first college baseball player since 2013 to hit the 30 home run mark. But Notre Dame here, coming off that big win against Tennessee. Going into this, I mean, I'm not sure, do you get pumped up about it or do you kind of have a hangover from it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And Notre Dame, they just knocked off the #1 overall seed. I wouldn't put anything past them right now. This is your classic pitching versus hitting matchup. Hitting with Texas, pitching with Notre Dame. Notre Dame uses the long ball a lot, which shouldn't be as effective as Robbie mentioned in this park. But Texas has the bats here. Pete Hansen should start game 1. He didn't look great against ECU. And that's kind of why I'm leaning here. Leaning Notre Dame.
John Michael Bertrand presumably will start this game for Notre Dame, and he's been one of the best pitchers in all of college baseball this season. So that's going to be a tough one for Texas. Like you said, John, Hansen looked a little bit sketchy in that super regional against ECU. And it's hard to pick against Notre Dame in this game just because of the high coming off of that super regional win at Tennessee. They were the best pitching team and the best defensive team in the ACC this season. So this isn't a fluke. They easily could have hosted a regional as well, and they've kind of had that chip on their shoulder as a result of only getting a #2 seed.
Those are the games on Friday. Let's versus Stanford in the afternoon. Stanford, they don't have pretty wins, but they are winning by all means. They're the favorite here at minus 125. Arkansas minus 105. The total is 11. John, who's your pick in this game?
Yeah, I like Arkansas minus 125 here against Stanford. You said it. Stanford just doesn't win pretty. They've been winning games. They won 16 in a row to end the season. They won the Pac-12 tournament, but they lost game 2 of their regional. They lost game 1 of their super regional. This team, it's really about fading Stanford here. I'm not too high on Arkansas. They have Connor Noland. He's been dominant. He was on the Arkansas team that made it in 2019. But I'm leaning Arkansas minus 125 here, mainly to fade Stanford.
Arkansas has been in this situation a lot. It's an experienced ball club, and Dave Van Horn is one of the best coaches in college baseball. So along the lines of that, Stanford did struggle in the regional a little bit and also the super regional against Texas State and UConn. I just think Arkansas, they had this lull at the end of the regular season, and then they really flipped a switch once they got into the regionals and then supers. They went to UNC and won that super regional, swept it, even though UNC had been playing as well as basically anybody in college baseball over the last month or so. They're going to be tough. The top of Arkansas's lineup is really starting to hit now, and they've got all the experience in the world. The top of Arkansas's lineup is really starting to hit now, and they've got all the experience in the world.
All right, that evening we get Ole Miss going up against Auburn here. Ole Miss, a couple stats for you: 2-1 versus Auburn this year, 6-1 versus Auburn over the past couple of years, past 2 years there. So Auburn, you do get plus money, plus 100. Ole Miss is the big favorite at minus 130. The total 11 and a hook. Where do we go in this game?
Yeah, I like Ole Miss minus 130 here against Auburn. Ole Miss is one of my favorite teams in the tournament. I love this team. They were ranked #1 in the nation at one point this season before they kind of fell off and ended up being the last team to make the regionals. So I like this team. Auburn, on the other hand, they have Sonny DiChiara anchoring their lineup, but they are mainly pitching based. They have a couple relievers that top it up at 97 from both sides with wipeout breaking stuff. I honestly think whoever wins this matchup could end up winning the World Series. So I like Ole Miss at minus 130 here against Auburn.
Ole Miss, it was my pick to win the SEC, and they brought back much of their fantastic hitting lineup from last season, and so it was really surprised to see them struggle and be the last team into the field. I agree with John. I mean, they're really on a roll, and Auburn also, they ranked outside the top 10 in the SEC in both runs scored and ERA. So Oregon State wasn't really playing so well down the stretch, and I wasn't too impressed with them, to be honest, for a #3 overall seed. I think Auburn has had a little bit of a fortunate path to get here, and I'd fade them here, especially with how hot Ole Miss has been. The Rebels have a ton of talent. They're just as talented as really any other team that's remaining, even though they were barely getting into the tournament to begin with.
Both going with Ole Miss there. Johnny mentioned whoever comes out of this game could very well win the World Series. And of course, as we mentioned, look, the odds are tight. The field is wide open. So let's get your pick to win.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the field is wide open, and I think that's represented with not any of the teams at higher than plus 800 odds. But I really like Oklahoma plus 800 here. As I mentioned, they have the pitching, and that's what you need to get through a tournament like this. They have the highest on-base percentage in the rest of the teams in the tournament. They've got a couple studs pitching. I like Oklahoma plus 800. And then my other play, Ole Miss plus 700. As I mentioned, they're hot. Everybody's counted them out. They barely made the tournament. I like Ole Miss plus 700. They have the seniors to anchor them.
This is a relatively evenly matched field of 8 here, so I think you can't go wrong with taking a flyer on one of those teams at the bottom. I definitely like Texas A&M in terms of the value. My pick to win it is Arkansas. It feels like they've been knocking on the door for a long time, and similarly to last year, Mississippi State had been to the College World Series a whole bunch. They had come up short a lot. I think that kind of toughened them up a little bit as a program. And Arkansas has been here before. This just feels to me like the Omahogs are going to get it done. I can't completely put my finger on it, but it helps that they're playing great baseball right now. Love how Connor Noland is playing, and I think they're a relatively well-rounded team with as much talent as just about anyone in college baseball, since they've got a multi-year track record of excellence.
And just to show how open this field is, I mean, you guys are picking 3 teams out of the 8, so really almost anybody could go ahead and win this whole thing. Jealous of everybody in Omaha. That is a bucket list item for me. All right, Robbie and John, thank you guys so much. Taking a look at the upcoming College World Series schedule, I will give you the correct time, 2 Eastern on Friday. Oklahoma taking on Texas A&M to kick off.